there's many police officers who will go their entire career without ever firing a weapon. I don't know a cop that has made it their entire career without fighting. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to do a breakdown on a incident, officer involved shooting. Officer actually gets shot in the hand with his own gun. This is a criminal trespass incident that happened in Florida. Somebody sent it to me and asked me to do a breakdown, so we're going to take a look.
Adams, they want you to be issued a trespass warning, so that means you gotta pay for it, bro. I got you. They already refunded you. I made sure they did that.
How they refund me?
To your card. So
my card. Go. How they refund me?
Here you go.
And where's that?
He's printing it out for me.
Okay, so the breakdown is this guy has been told he needs to leave. I don't know, maybe vandalize the apartment, whatever the case may be, or the hotel room.
Do you have stuff in the room?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of shit in my room.
So you go up there and clear it out.
So he maybe vandalized the hotel room. I'm not sure, but the manager of the establishment said, "Hey, we want this guy off the property." Criminal trespass warning is just that. It's a criminal trespass warning, which is something that an officer says, "Hey, you're warned you can't be on this property." You leave, no issue. Where a criminal trespass warning becomes an arrestable offense is if you return to that property. So they're talking with the guy now. They're trying to explain to him, "Hey, you have a criminal trespass warning." He's not super compliant. You can tell he's, somewhat abrasive. So keep that in mind as this plays out.
Boss man.
Listen, you're not listening to me because I'm not leaving a place that my name is on the property.
What you're gonna do is leave, or you're gonna go to jail for trespassing.
I was just doing a good job trying to explain it to him.
Doing that shit? Here.
They end up getting his stuff out. They're actually carrying some of his stuff for him out to his car, putting it in his trunk for him.
Lock it up.
Hell, he got me. I'm not locking him. I got that shirt, but I'll be back here because he dropped the charges.
You come back, you're going to jail.
Look.
If you come back, you're going to jail. I'm done talking. I'm done talking. You come back, you're going to jail.
All right, so we're going to pause right here. Officers, some of these guys will sit here and talk with these officers forever, and just drag this out. So if officer says, "Okay, I'm done. You've been issued a criminal trespass warning and it's time to get off the property." Well, the guy comes back. So now we have a criminal offense because he's already been warned to not be on the property, and he comes back. And this is where things get a little bit more interesting. The guy's super aggravated. He's super heated, super animated. Officer's making his approach.
Come up here. I'm on the phone with him.
Who are you on the phone with?
No.
You on the phone with?
Right there.
Okay. So I'm gonna pause it right there as he's walking away. Keep in mind, we have an arrestable offense. This guy's committed a crime in an officer's presence. So he's gonna try to take this guy into custody. And that guy obviously is not complying. He's walking away. The officer starts to approach him.
Oh, come on. You go with 911, buddy.
Hey, man.
Get your ass out my face,
What
bro.
I tell you, man?
Hit me with that
What I tell
taser.
you? What I tell you?
Hit me with that fucking
Get on the
taser.
ground, man. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Bro, hit me with that fucking
Get on the
taser.
ground.
So rich,
Get on the ground,
hit me
bro.
with that
Get on the
taser.
ground.
Bam, he's got hit me with a taser. No.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right here for a second because it's easy for me to sit here and armchair quarterback this, right? But if we don't look at some of these situations and consider what good tactics there are and what bad tactics there are, then we can't learn from them, both as police officers and as citizens who are always going to come in contact with each other. It's important to highlight these things. So officer takes out his taser, tells the guy to get on the ground. The guy doesn't comply. He tells him over and over and over again. For one, tasers are effective, but they also are ineffective a lot of times. Two, once you tell somebody to do something, this officer is telling this guy over and over and over again. Some of you are probably going to say, "Oh no, he's trying to get him to comply." And the longer these altercations draw out, the more likely they are to become an excessive force situation. So if he's going to tase him, if he feels like he has enough justification to draw that taser out and point it at the guy, then tell the guy that I'm going to tase you. And then if the guy doesn't comply, use a taser. Now, I will say that the front of the body is not the ideal place to tase somebody. You actually, they teach you to tase them on the back if possible, because the large muscle groups will get the ideal response. But he tells the guy, it's clear that he doesn't really want to tase him. It plays out. He eventually tries to.
Bro, don't push that. Bro, not a bust your ass. No,
Okay, pause for a second. Taser fails. Two things here. He goes to grab the guy with the taser in his hand. So, taser is a less lethal force option that we use from distance when we don't want to engage somebody. So, don't go and put your hands on the guy before you're going to tase him. That's, of course, going to put you into a, combat, hand-to-hand combat scenario. It's going to get you in a close proximity. So use your taser. Officer should have used his taser at a distance, which is what it's utilized for. He then tases the guy, and probably because he's so close, he didn't get a good spread. I don't even know if they hit properly, but the spread makes a difference. The guy's able to not be affected by the taser, or if he was affected, it was so minimal that it actually didn't do what he was supposed to do. So here now he's attacking the officer, and he's got like a can in his hand. You can see here, he goes to swing at the officer. That is a weapon. Could definitely harm the officer. Even an aluminum can, if it busts and cracks and now it's got sharp edges and stuff, it's definitely a weapon. Let's watch this play out. There's the can. So he's hitting him with a baton here. That's what's going on. It's difficult to see. There you see the baton is dropped. We're going to pause here. I am openly critical of the baton for multiple reasons. It's not effective. It's very, very rarely effective. Two, it looks extremely violent when you're striking somebody. And it's just, I can't tell you the last time that I've seen a baton be effective in one of these type of situations. When somebody is super hyped up, when their adrenaline is flowing, you're not going to get the compliance from a baton. I'm not saying there's no uses for a baton whatsoever. And for you guys that would attack that thought process, go ahead. I don't like batons for defensive tactics situations. Okay, I'm going to pause it here as they're wrestling because I want to highlight something that I think is very interesting. So, two things, really. The officer, realized, okay, the taser didn't work. My baton's not working. Now I've lost my baton because it's on the ground. And so he decides to go hands-on. You can see in the dash cam, in the body cam video that the officer's hands come forward, and I guess he's going to try to tackle the guy or something like that. Never want to take our hands away from our face. It's not a good idea to do that. But what's interesting here is that the suspect there's a moment here where it looks like he's sprawling, which is a technique that we talk about in defensive tactics and in mixed martial arts. If somebody's trying to take you down, you shoot your feet back, you apply force with your hips. They call it sprawling. You guys have likely seen it in MMA or something like that. This guy's sprawling. So I'm curious if this guy has some level of training. He's actually not terribly unfit. He's not fit, but he's not unfit. You can kind of see a little bit of his abs. So I'm curious if he has some level of training. I haven't been able to find any research on this to determine if he does. All that to say, if you're a police officer and you don't train defensive tactics, some form of martial arts, preferably what I would gear people towards would be jiu-jitsu. And if you're going to do striking, some level of Muay Thai kickboxing, because those are just the most effective that we have available today. It's a reason why MMA fighters use it. Not saying police officers should be MMA fighters, but a police officer, there's many police officers who will go their entire career without ever firing a weapon. I don't know a cop that has made it their entire career without fighting. And you're going to fight a lot. You're going to get into a lot of altercations. So if you're a police officer watching this, then please go out and seek training, because the likelihood of you getting into a fight, which I'm sure you've already been in one, is very, very high. And the difference on whether you live or die could be the training that you put in beforehand. If you're a citizen watching this, don't fight with the police. It's not going to end well for you. This guy chooses to do so. We'll watch how it plays out. At some point, I don't know if you can see they're fighting over something. They're fighting over the officer's gun. The citizen's trying to tell him to stop, and right there the shot goes off.
Get on! He's not trying to shoot him! Let's try to shoot! Kill me. Quit. Stand with the seven taser. Yeah. Bro.
Okay, so they get separated. Officer falls on the ground.
Quit. I don't follow dispatch for nothing. Dispatch, he's got my gun. He's got my gun. I'm shot. I'm shot.
Okay, we're going to pause it right there. So that's the end of the video anyways. So I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if the officer retrieved his gun and tried to introduce it into the fight because he felt like the guy was getting the better hand. I don't know if the guy pulled the gun from the officer's holster. I would find that less likely because retention these days in holsters is pretty good. Not that you can't be taken, but what I assume, and this is a complete assumption, so just to be fair, I don't know exactly what happened. My assumption is that the officer retrieved his gun because he felt like he was losing this fight, and then they got into a fight over the gun. So never a good idea to retrieve your weapon in a close quarter hand-to-hand combat if you if you don't have complete control of the suspect in the incident. So not ideal in any way, shape, or form. Obviously they're fighting, and I don't know how the gun gets discharged. Is too hard to tell, but it hits the officer in the hand. And when they break apart, I did some research on this, and when they broke apart, the suspect actually had the officer's gun. So this officer gets shot, and then gets his gun taken from him. So he's, at the mercy of this suspect. What happens is follow-on officers end up showing up. They actually end up being able to take the guy into custody. But the takeaway here is that A, for citizens, don't fight police because this guy's going to face a whole lot of charges now, right? B, for police officers, man, go out and get training because your life literally depends on it. There is not very many jobs where your level of fitness and knowledge and defensive tactics make or break whether or not you live, but being a police officer is one of those jobs. So you have a responsibility not only to yourself, but to the people that you work with to be effective at controlling subjects. And you have a responsibility to your family to make sure you get home safe at the end of the day. I was a defensive tactics instructor for a long time. I still teach defensive tactics, but it's what I did full time for a long time for a police department. And I was always shocked at the lack of training that officers get. And really, honestly, the lack of motivation for officers to train. So really what we have to do is we're going to have to, hopefully what would happen is eventually when enough of these cases happen is the governing bodies are going to have to mandate training. What needs to happen is as soon as an officer enters into a police academy, he starts training in defensive tactics right away. That would be a minimum of 6 to 10 months of defensive tactics training. Every single day, they could have the opportunity to train every single day. It could be part of their PT, and they could gain a decent level of competence in doing that. For 6 months solid of training, it would at least allow them to hit the streets much sooner. Unfortunately, what usually happens in police academies now is they get about a week or so of defensive tactics training. And I love law enforcement. I come from law enforcement, and I 100% believe in what our men and women in blue do. But I will be openly critical about the lack of training that they get and the lack of support in training that they get, and also the lack in motivation that the individual officer has to go out and seek training. So if you're a police officer, please go out and seek training. It could literally make or break whether you go home at the end of the day. If you're a citizen, then be compliant with the police because they're there to protect you. I know there's going to be lots of comments that say something stupid like, well, police officers are nothing but tyrants, and that's just not true. We couldn't live in a society without police. I'm not saying that there's not any bad cops. There are, of course, but that's fairly rare. The vast majority of cops out there are there doing it for the right reasons. Big takeaway. The longer that these use of force situations take place, the longer that they draw out, the more likely it is that they're going to result in a lethal force option. This officer or that suspect could have lost their life this day. Honestly, it's just by grace that they didn't. All right, guys, that's the end of this breakdown. I appreciate you guys watching. Again, please comment anything that you want me to cover, whether it be a video reaction or some type of tactic. I'd love to do it. I appreciate when you guys comment. I'm Sean Kennard. Remember, violence is a virtue.